Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Harris with the Fruits of Virtue podcast. We've been talking about individuals in our society who make a difference. They are prompted at times to do good, to be aware of the needs of others, and they act on those impulses and accomplish great things. We're going to have a person on today. His name is Marty. He has a great story that he's going to share. So I'm here with Marty. He's a friend of mine, and I heard a story that he shared with me not long ago, and I was so impressed. I asked Marty if he would come on and share this.
Okay, great, Mike. Thanks for the opportunity to share. I don't have that opportunity very often, or I don't think about it. Any rate, quite a few years ago, at one of my store here, there was a kid that went to a local high school in the area who had actually dropped out of high school his junior year, and he used to come to the mall and loiter all the time. He was the kid that wore the army jacket and that look. He'd be talking to my girls at the shop and, flirting with them and on and on. And I remember telling him, I says, they're on my time, not your time. You can visit anytime you want during break, but, I sign their paychecks, basically. Any rate, I really got to know this kid pretty well. His name is Chris. Blonde-haired kid, probably about 5'11" to 6 feet tall, and as handsome as can be. The girls, when they saw him, their heads spun big time. He was a very, very handsome young man, but he had some issues in life. And over the times, the few months that he'd come by the shop, and I got to know him a little bit, and he didn't really have any money, so I'd buy him a Coke and a cookie once in a while, or a muffin or something, just to kind of get him through. And a few months down the road, there was an opportunity that something just struck me. And I thought, Chris is here and I'm going to tell him something, So he came up to the counter at the shop and I says, Chris, we're going to go for a ride. And he says, where are we going? We'll just hop in. So I jumped in my pickup and we drove over to the military recruiting offices. And he dug his heels in. He says, I am not joining the military for nothing. I don't care if it's Army, Marines, Navy. I'm not doing it. And I says, well, we're here now. At least just see what they have to say, and I'll stay with you the whole time. So anyway, he did his interviews and everything. And that was that. He was kind of upset with me that I did that. So I got back to the mall. I dropped him off. And then I didn't hear from him for quite a while. And then he showed up about 2 months later, came to the cookie shop, and his hair was all buzzed. He looked sharp, this young man. He'd actually joined the Army. So I was like, wow, something happened. But he cussed me out and he says, oh, boot camp was the worst thing that ever happened in my life. We got some laughs over the whole deal. And then I didn't hear from Chris for years. Probably, I'd say a good 8 to 10 years after that, my telephone rang at my residence. My son Ryan actually picked up the phone and says, hello, Dad, somebody's on the phone for you. And I go, well, who is it? And he says, I don't know. He's just asking for you. So I got on the phone and hello, this is Marty. And not knowing at that time that was Chris, he says, I don't know if you remember me or not, but I'm that kid that used to come loiter in the mall and flirt with the girls at your store. Then you hauled me over to the recruiting office and I ended up joining the Army. And he enlisted. He stayed and stuck it out. So he's on the phone telling me what's going on in his life. And I'm like, well, that's awesome, Chris. You found a life for yourself. And he says, and what's even better, he said, I got my medical degree to become a medical doctor.
Wow.
So I'm a doctor. And I have a wife and I got 3 young children now. And I'm active in our church, he said. And I went, holy smokes. I mean, I almost dropped the phone. I couldn't believe it. And all he could do is just say, I wanted to call you and just tell you how grateful I am that you saw enough in me that you stepped in. He just says you made a difference in my life. So that's the Chris story.
That's amazing. I mean, you clearly were inspired. And how could you have ever known that it could have become such a great story, right? That he could have become that successful.
Yeah, he just did awesome. Oh, and after that, for years, we exchanged Christmas cards. For me, it was a moment in my life. Who would have ever known anything could have turned out like this? And then to hear of his story all these years, and unbeknownst to myself, that had some kind of impact on his life. People like to help people. They're generous, and I believe in how good humans can actually be one to another.
Absolutely.
And but to have this happen for this young man, it was miraculous. What happened in his life.
Absolutely. Marty, thank you so much for sharing the story with our audience. There's things we all can do. We just have to be aware of the needs of others and then be willing to act when we have that impulse. So, again, thank you so much for this story, and I hope it will act as a catalyst and an inspiring way for others to act on those thoughts and feelings when they have them.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Thanks, Marty. Well, there you have it. All of us can make the difference in the lives of others. We just need to raise our awareness and have the courage to act. I wish you all the best. Take care. Bye bye.